Okay, gang, I've been thinking about doing a podcast, right? Look how great my hair looks in this light. Holy cow. I like having no gray hair. I have like 5 gray hairs. Except if I don't shave, then I get like this giant Pepe Le Pew patch right there on my chin. Anyway, so I was thinking about doing a podcast, and I'm like, I look really fat from this angle too. God, I'm like Jabba the... Anyway. I was thinking about doing a podcast, okay? And first of all, my first thought was, who wants to tune in and listen to anything I have to say? And second of all, I'm a pretty entertaining guy, so maybe people might, right? So the advice I got was, just do a bunch, and eventually you'll find your rhythm. Okay, so this is not that. But it occurred to me that 2 things I would want to talk about. First, stuff that's going on in my life. That was a thumb, not a... First, things that were going on in my life, and second, stuff about my books, like the writing process or where I'm at right now. So, stuff that's going on in my life. Here's the thing. I use my cruise control. I keep looking at myself because I cannot believe how gray my hair looks. Now, I'll go outside later. I'll clip this together with something else, or I'll do another one. And you'll see my hair. Dude, I'm like an old man. I'm not that old. Well, I'm that old, but I'm not that gray. So, I use my cruise control all the time. I don't know why. I used to get a bunch of tickets, and so since I have cruise control, I just use it. Like right now, I'm driving down Livingston in Lutz, which is just north of Tampa, right? They share a border. Speed limit's 45, so I'm basically at that. And I'm going to be on this road for, 5 or 6 miles, and there's like 2 traffic lights, maybe 4. So I just kind of said, well, the speed limit's 40 apparently, so I'm speeding. Anyway, I set the cruise control so I don't, so here I am right now lowering it, so I don't get a ticket, and so I don't have to, I can listen to the radio, I can, listen to podcasts, audiobooks, whatever. So I tend to do that. Now there's a road it's the same road, okay, I'm going south on Livingston because I'm headed towards Temple Terrace. If I come out of my street and I go north on Livingston, it crosses over some other streets, and then it becomes 30 miles an hour, okay? Now, the same deal applies. This particular chunk of road is out in the middle of nowhere, and it's 30 miles an hour. And there's no turns. There's no houses. There's a handful of streets that come off of it. Maybe there's 5 houses. There's an apartment complex, okay? But you probably go, let's just call it 2 miles, 2 or 3 miles of a 2-lane road in the middle of nowhere. It's flat, it's straight, so everybody wants to go like 50, because it's going to connect to a busy road with a speed limit like 50 miles an hour, 55 or something. So everybody on there wants to go 50 miles an hour. But I've gotten tickets on that road because it's right near my house. So I set my cruise control. And I set my cruise control at like 33 miles an hour. And inevitably, doesn't matter what time of day I go. This morning I left the house after I dropped off my daughter at school, and I went to go get gas, so I'm on that road. But it could be the afternoon, I could be driving to the bank, it doesn't matter. Evening, doesn't matter. I'll set my cruise control, because when you get a friggin' $100 ticket or something for like going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, and it's a block from your house or whatever, there's, I don't know about you, that just irritated the crap out of me. So I set my cruise control, and the cars will pile up behind me. They will get on my bumper. It'll be 6 deep, and I'm like, I know. I'm driving like a low man. I hate it too, okay? But I hate the ticket worse. And guess what? Odds are, when I turn to go to the gas station and everybody else goes out on the main road, I'm probably never running into you people again. Odds are, okay? So just deal with my 3 minutes of having to actually go the speed limit. 3 minutes out of your life, you will live. Oh, and by the way, if you do the math, if you go like 45 or 50 for 2 miles as opposed to 30 miles an hour, you're going to save like a whopping 60 seconds on your drive. So, not worth it. All right, so there's that. So I may talk about stuff like that on my podcast. You can let me know if that's something good to talk about. You can let me know if that's entertaining or not. Maybe it's not. I'm kind of thinking at this point, it is not. All right, and the other thing is, my progress of my book. Now, not a lot of you may be interested in that, but some of you will be. And on the odds, now I got somebody who's trying to turn left, and I got to go straight, so I'm going to zip around them and then zip back around back in that lane so I can make the light. I'm not an aggressive driver. I should lower my camera, my microphone so people don't actually see me doing this in traffic. All right, so the progress on the book. I started roughly January 1st. I was kicking around the opening scenes and the basic plot, kind of kicking around in my head on and off for about 2 weeks before January 1st when I started writing it. And I could be certain, it's entirely possible, I didn't actually write anything on January 1st. I think I started actually writing it January 2nd. And then I think I'm around 25,000 words now. I did some reviewing and stuff today. I didn't write anything on it today. Today's the 18th. So all in all, I'm going to say that I'm 25K into writing this new book. And I always have, two giant concerns. First concern is when I'm kicking around an idea, is this enough of an idea for a whole book? You get 20,000 words in, you're like, okay, I'm done. That's it. I started, I had a middle, I had an ending. There's not much more to say. Boom, you wrote a novella. Okay, good. You wrote something. The other thing is, so, I write, my goal is write a 65,000 word book or 75,000 word book, give myself 2 months to do it, which is about what it takes me to do that. And so I'm 25,000 words in, roughly, somewhere between 20 and 25. I think it's 25. It could be 22, 23. Which after 18 days, and I didn't even write every single day of those 18 days, I'm totally happy with that. A lot of people will tell you they wish they had written that much in that few number of days. And the other thing I'll tell you is, each day when I sit down to write, I usually review the chapter I wrote the day before. So it's a little more polished. My first draft, when I finish it, is a little more polished than most people's first drafts. So I could write it faster, but the net result is, if I wrote it faster, I'd spend more time editing and reviewing. So I'd rather just kind of review a chapter, it doesn't take that long to do, and then write my next chapter. And then as I do that, I'll come up with ideas where I forgot something. Like this book involves a Florida panther, and I have a scene where the main character is at an animal preserve, and she's got to walk between these two cages, and one's got a Bengal tiger on one side, between big steel fence wiring, all that stuff. So it's safe. She's just a little nervous about doing it. She's by herself. She's got to go catch up with a group. The owner of the preserve is taking a group around, and she's actually supposed to be taking her around, but she stayed behind to make a phone call. And then she goes across this little grassy yard to take the path where it says to go. And so there's a Florida panther on the right and a Bengal tiger on the left in separate cages. And, the path goes in between the two because it's kind of a behind the scenes tour they're taking. And so I have, for whatever reason, I'm not going to get into why, she spends some time, and I will refer to both of those, the Florida panther and the Bengal tiger. It doesn't have to be a Bengal tiger. It just happens to be a Bengal tiger. So I keep saying Bengal tiger. We can just say tiger. Okay. So they're both, I'm going to refer to them as both big cats. There are those who will say, well, a Florida panther is smaller, doesn't qualify as a big cat. You know what? They're bigger than house cats. That qualifies as big cats to, I think, the book reading world. And for those who disagree, okay, point taken. So she's got to walk between the two cages. And for whatever reason, one of the big cats, one of the two big cats, jumps up and paws the cage near where she is. As she's like going to walk by, she's nervous. She's looking at them too much. She can, it's feeding time. It's first thing in the morning kind of deal. And because the one cat got excited, the other cat gets excited. Okay, so I've got these two cats on each side of the cages of the path, banging and growling, and I did all this research on Florida panthers, and they don't growl. They don't. They purr, they hiss, they have a call that if you heard it, you might actually think it was a bird. Now, for those of you in Florida who deal with our sandhill cranes, you would say, well, we have birds that sound like freaking dinosaurs from Jurassic Park. And yep, that's true too. Sandhill cranes are giant. They're like 5 feet tall. They have like an 8-foot wingspan, 10-foot wingspan, and they make crazy noises. You would not think that was a bird. But by the same token, this cat, the Florida panther, makes noises more like a bird than a lion. That line you see at the beginning of the MGM movies, roar, roar, whatever his name is, rolling his head around, roaring. That's a roar, okay? A growl, a roar. Florida panthers don't do that. So I inaccurately ascribed the Florida panther roaring and growling at her. It can growl, technically, I suppose. But the Bengal tiger definitely can. So that's one of those things where it's like, as I'm goofing off last night not writing, it occurs to me that, hey, you had both those cats do that, and both of those big cats don't do that. You need to revise that today. And I didn't actually revise it today, but I made the note to myself to revise it. And then I did some video research to make sure I'm right, that they don't growl. Okay. So that's one of the things where it's like, that's kind of my process too. As I'm going along writing, I will write note after note after note to myself. Hey, don't forget, you did this. Don't forget, go fix that. And 9 times out of 10, well, 8 times out of 10, I'll go back and fix it right then and there. I'll write the note to remind me to go do it. And then I'll be like, you know what, just go fix it right now. And then I'll go back and I'll fix it. And a lot of this is just small stuff. So in this example of the 2 big cats, the 2 cages, one on each side of the path, and her being all scared, as they leap at her, they can both leap at her, they can both get out their claws, they can both get out their teeth and bang and grip the cage and bite the cage and all that stuff. But only one should be growling. I'm simply going to have it be, she's going to tell somebody they were both growling and roaring, and somebody will correct her and say, well, I don't know what cage you're at. Florida panthers don't growl. And that might be something important later in the story, because they are wondering if somebody from the preserve is letting out the big cats to wreak havoc on the small town nearby, because they have a victim that has all these bite marks all over her. A high school girl, a high school senior. She is riding her bike at night to the convenience store and got attacked on the way home, got attacked and killed. So that's part of that process. So each day I write, get up early, bang it out, usually review my day's prior chapter. I don't get a chapter done every single day, but I usually generate several chapters worth of ideas and notes. Oh, what about this? What about that? And I'll jot it down. So a lot of my story is outlined before I start, like a 1-page, these are the things that'll happen. Here's how it starts. Here's how it ends. Here's the good guy. Here's the bad guy. Here's some of the things that'll happen in between. So I have 15 or 20 bullet points before I start writing. And then I give myself the freedom to take the story in whatever direction I feel it needs to go / wants to go. And I always tell people, you should outline. It's hard to hit your target if you don't know what the target is. Whether you're driving in a car or, you wouldn't get in your car and start driving, say, I hope to get to New York, but have no idea of how to get there. But people feels like that stifles their creativity. For me, I try to have the best of both worlds. I definitely outline, but it's in really broad strokes. I'll get all kinds of great ideas for scenes, and I'll just throw idea after idea into my folder on my computer. And then as I'm going through, I'm like, that's a crappy idea, and that one gets deleted. Or, it's wrong for this book, but it might be good for some other book, so I'll stick it in a different file. Or I'll say, okay, the ending was going to be, you're writing Romeo and Juliet, and you're like, okay, I'd like them to live happily ever after. The original outline was they both see each other, and he sees that she's dead, so he kills himself, and then she wakes up from the potion and sees him, and she kills herself because she's got a broken heart. What if instead they live happily ever after? So you can have your goal of, okay, they're both going to die by this plot twist, horrible, tragic ending. And then as you get closer to it, you can say, you know what, I want them to, have wonderful lives and get married and have children and happily ever after. So I like to have an ending in mind before I start writing. A lot of authors don't do that. Stephen King does not do that, according to things he's said in interviews. Filmmakers, Quentin Tarantino, same deal, does not necessarily know how the story is going to end, according to what I've read or seen in interviews. And these are great storytellers, which is why I mentioned it. But there are other great storytellers who absolutely positively have it all buttoned down, and then there's people like me who are a little bit in between. So I know how this book is going to end. It's called Killer in the Dark. I know how it's going to end. Do I have exactly the ending? Well, right now, I have the ending that I had before I started writing it. And if anywhere along the process I come up with an idea where, oh, what about this? What about everybody thinks they're going to live happily ever after? Back to Romeo and Juliet as an example, because I'm not going to give you the ending of my own story that I'm writing. What if I make everybody think they're going to kill themselves, and then I make everybody think they live happily ever after, and then, I don't know, a bus hits them and they both die? And so, if I come up with a better ending, then I go with that. If I don't come up with a better ending, I go with the one I came up with the understanding that I probably have a pretty good ending in mind in the first place. And then the only other thing, I love to have a twist in my plot, right? Where you think this and it turns out you're wrong about this, whatever aspect it is. Sometimes there's several of those in my story. Sometimes there's just one big one. They're a lot of fun for me, and obviously they're a lot of fun for readers. So I'll have my twists kind of sketched out, and then I'll kind of say to myself, okay, that's good, this other twist is better. Or I'll sit there and say, oh, what if the whole time this thing was the reality and not what we were pretending? And you kind of look at it and say, well, there's only 3 or 4 things I have to change to make that the case. So does that make it a way, way, way better ending? And if the answer is yes, guess what? We go for the way, way, way better ending, and we jettison the original ending, and we change the 3 or 4 things that we needed to change. And since I have arrived at my And so if I arrived at my destination, I will bid you adieu for now. It's about a 17-minute video, not bad. And if I have some stuff to clip into it that makes sense and works, I'll do that as well. Come back soon. I'll be here.